I left my boyfriend to find myself, slept with a coworker, and thought I'd be happier. Now I'm alone, broke, and realizing he was the only one who ever loved me, while he's moved on and living the life I threw away. I'm 27F, and until about 6 months ago, I was in a long-term relationship with my ex, 28M. We were together for a little over 5 years, lived together for 4, and everyone who knew us assumed we'd eventually get married. Nothing dramatic ever happened between us. No cheating, no screaming matches, no "we're toxic but passionate" nonsense. It was a stable, calm relationship. If you asked anyone who knew us, they'd say he treated me well, and the truth is, he did. The breakup didn't happen because he hurt me. It happened because I convinced myself I was suffocating. I got it into my head that I was wasting my youth in a relationship that felt too predictable. He worked a steady job, had routines, wanted to settle into a quiet life. I started seeing that as something that would trap me. I wanted travel, adventure, freedom, impulsive nights, whatever else people on Instagram mean when they talk about finding themselves. I started resenting him for being the kind of person who didn't need that. I'd look at him on the couch after work, tired and content, and instead of appreciating it, I'd think, is this really it? Is this the rest of my life? For the record, he never held me back from anything. I just wanted someone to blame for my own dissatisfaction, and he was convenient. Around that same time, I started getting close to a coworker, 30M. Nothing physical happened while I was still with my ex, but I'd be lying if I said the emotional shift didn't start before the breakup. The coworker was funny, flirty, unpredictable, the opposite of my boyfriend. Being around him made me feel wanted and exciting, and I mistook that feeling for some kind of deeper truth about my life. I wasn't in love with him. I was in love with the attention and how different he felt. I didn't cheat, but I definitely checked out of the relationship months before I ended it. I told my ex I wanted to find myself, and that I felt like we were living the same year on repeat. He didn't beg or argue. He just sat there, quiet, and nodded. He asked if I was sure, and I said yes, even though I wasn't. I think I expected some kind of big emotional scene like he'd chase me, or try to prove how much he loved me, but instead, he respected what I said and let me go. And out of everything that's happened since, that moment is the one that stuck in my ribs the hardest. I moved out a week later, got my own small apartment, told everyone I felt free and alive. I was doing the confident newly single girl routine. Dates, bars, late-night drives, posting selfies like I suddenly discovered my face again. I kept telling myself that any sadness was just detoxing from a relationship I'd outgrown. And yeah, I did start seeing the coworker. It wasn't a relationship, just whatever people call it when they're sleeping together and pretending it doesn't mean anything. At first it felt fun, like a reward for choosing myself. I told my friends I felt empowered. They hyped me up. Nobody told me I might be making a huge mistake, or maybe they did, and I just wasn't listening because being validated was easier than being warned. The cracks started showing way faster than I expected. Bills hit harder when there isn't someone splitting the cost. Groceries, car repairs, rent increases, all the stuff I never even noticed he handled without making a big deal about it. I realized I didn't actually find myself. I just found out how expensive it is to pretend you're starting over on purpose. I'm not posting this to get advice on how to win him back. I'm not that delusional. I just don't know what to do with the realization that nothing was actually trapping me. I was just too insecure to accept a good thing without needing to break it first. Update 1. The coworker I started seeing after the breakup. Things have turned cold and fast. At first, it was exciting. He'd text me at odd hours, make little jokes, flirt a little. I convinced myself it was thrilling and empowering to be wanted again, to feel like someone was chasing me, even casually. But somewhere along the way, I started noticing a pattern. The more I tried to connect, the more distant he became. Messages went unanswered for hours, sometimes days. Calls I thought were routine turned into, "Oh, busy, talk later," without follow-up. When I tried to casually meet up, he'd cancel last minute or act annoyed when I suggested a plan. I confronted him once, trying to keep it calm. I told him I felt like things had shifted and asked if he actually wanted to keep this going. He shrugged, said something along the lines of, "I never promised anything," and left it at that. I felt that hit me like a slap. I had assumed some unspoken understanding that just because we were intimate, there was at least some level of mutual interest beyond the physical, but apparently not. It's like I was only ever a temporary distraction, a thrill, not a person he wanted to invest in. I can't even explain how weird it feels to realize you're being treated as replaceable when, just a month ago, you thought you were taking control of your life. That sense of empowerment I felt, completely evaporated. And the worst part is, I don't even feel angry at him. Not really. I feel stupid for believing in it, for thinking I could just step out of a stable relationship and get a better version of life in return. Then there's the office gossip. I found out through a casual conversation with a colleague that people know about what happened with me and the coworker. Apparently some people at work assumed I left my ex for him, which isn't true at all. And I spent way too long trying to clarify it, because now there's this weird narrative about me that I can't control. I can feel it in the way people look at me, the small glances in meetings, the subtle snickers when I walk past. It's exhausting, and I didn't think I'd care about my professional reputation this soon after leaving a relationship. But it matters. It always does. The combination of the fling going south and work gossip hitting me hard has forced me to confront something I've been dodging. I miss my ex. Not because I'm lonely or desperate for attention, I genuinely miss him because he was steady, reliable, and cared about me in ways I didn't fully appreciate at the time. He wasn't flashy, he didn't make every day feel like a thrill, but he was consistent, loyal, and genuinely loved me. That's not something you just replace with someone who makes you laugh once in a while or flirts shamelessly in an empty office break room. I decided to reach out to him, trying to be casual. I told myself I just wanted to talk, maybe be friends, maybe clarify things in my head. He replied politely, nothing cold, nothing overly warm either. The gap between us feels like miles now, not physically but emotionally. He's gone, he's not waiting, and while I knew he'd move on eventually, it's jarring to realize it's already happening. A mutual friend let slip that he started seeing someone new. The new girlfriend is nothing like me, quiet, steady, reliable. She's not dramatic, she's not unpredictable, she doesn't need constant validation or attention. The image of them together hit me harder than I expected. I feel a mix of jealousy, regret, and an odd sense of guilt. I know he's allowed to be happy, allowed to move on, but it's difficult not to feel like I handed him the life I threw away. And yet, I can't hate myself completely. I made the choices. I left because I wanted to. I slept with him because I wanted to. I convinced myself I needed excitement. I can own that. What I can't own is the timing, or the fallout, or how much it's crushing me to see someone else getting the stability, affection, and life I walked away from. Update 2. The co-worker I had been seeing continued his usual pattern. Hot one week, cold the next. Eventually, he started openly seeing someone else at work. Not in a mean-spirited way, just casually, like he didn't think twice about how it would hit me. I tried to reach out one last time, hoping to clarify, maybe salvage something friendly, but he blocked me on every social platform. That was the final blow in that small, messy situation. I wasn't angry, just stunned by how quickly something that felt thrilling could evaporate and leave me with nothing but embarrassment and regret. Meanwhile, bills started piling up. Living on my own seemed glamorous at first, but I underestimated everything. Rent, utilities, groceries, the cost of commuting, even small things like laundry and cleaning services I used to rely on my ex for. Suddenly, I was juggling numbers in a way I never had to before, realizing that a lot of the comfort I took for granted, things like him, quietly paying for joint expenses, helping plan weekends, supporting me emotionally without drama, was gone. The financial stress added a sharp edge to every other disappointment. I'm making ends meet, barely, and it's exhausting. Dating hasn't helped either. I tried apps for the first time, thinking it might be a good way to meet someone new, but almost every conversation feels transactional or shallow. Most men my age either want casual flings or seem disinterested in building something meaningful. The realization that I'm competing with younger, less complicated people, or worse, with men who only care about the thrill of the chase, has been demoralizing. I wanted freedom, adventure, and independence, but all I've found so far is instability and temporary attention that leaves me emptier than before. Adding insult to injury, I see my ex living the life I thought I would have. Through mutual friends and social media, I've learned he got a promotion, is planning trips, and has started seeing someone new. I keep asking myself if it was worth it. The coworker was exciting for a moment, yes. Being single felt freeing at first. But freedom without stability, without support, without love that's real, turns out to be lonely and expensive. I have independence, yes, but it feels more like punishment than liberation. Update 3. I finally did it. I reached out to him. After weeks of staring at my phone, rereading old messages, and trying to convince myself that I was just seeking closure, I typed out a short, careful note asking if he'd meet me for coffee. I tried to frame it as casual, adult. No strings, just to talk. I told myself I wasn't going to be dramatic. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to try to undo anything. I just needed to see him, to face the reality of what I'd done, and to accept it fully. He agreed. The response was polite, short, and kind, but it carried the distance I had feared. He suggested a neutral place, a quiet coffee shop we used to go to sometimes. I remember sitting in my car for a solid 5 minutes before going in, trying to steady myself. Part of me was nervous. Part of me was already anticipating disappointment. And part of me was afraid I might break down in front of him, which of course I did. Seeing him was surreal. He looked calm, put together, like nothing about the past year had shaken him. Meanwhile, I felt like a storm inside. I had imagined this meeting hundreds of times in my head: confrontation, apologies, maybe some kind of reconciliation, or at the very least, emotional catharsis. But the moment I sat across from him, I realized that I had no control over how this would go. I started talking, stumbling over words, trying to explain myself without sounding like I was making excuses. I told him I took him for granted, that I thought I was fixing my life by leaving, that I thought I needed freedom and independence to truly understand myself. I admitted that I thought I was empowered, but that now everything had fallen apart, and I saw clearly that I had been reckless. I didn't beg him to forgive me. I didn't demand anything. I just spoke, letting it out, trying to make sense of my own mess. He listened, calm, composed, almost impossibly so. And then he said the line that shattered me more than anything else could have. I spent months trying to make you happy. You weren't trapped. You were just unhappy with yourself. I can't describe how that hit me. Not angry, not accusatory, just simple and true. The truth is rarely dramatic, and it left me raw. I had spent so long blaming circumstances, the relationship, the coworker, my friends, even society for my unhappiness. But he was right. I wasn't running from him. I was running from myself, from the fact that I couldn't sit still with who I was, that I couldn't handle contentment without constantly stirring the pot. I wanted excitement, novelty, chaos, and when the real love and stability I had didn't provide that, I threw it away. We sat in silence after that. He didn't need to say more. I could see he had moved on. Not in a vengeful, spiteful way, but in a quiet, unshakable way. The life he was building, the person he had become, didn't include me, and that wasn't just a choice. It was proof of how easily I had made myself replaceable. I asked a few questions about his life, not out of nosiness, but out of a desperate need to gauge how far apart we had drifted. He told me about his new girlfriend, how she was kind, steady, and someone who complimented him without adding drama. She sounded ordinary, almost mundane, if you looked at it the wrong way. But she was exactly what he needed, exactly what I had refused to be. And that's when I heard the news I hadn't expected. She was pregnant. Not publicly announced, not trying to make me feel bad, just a natural part of their life now. I couldn't cry at first. I just sat there, staring at him, understanding everything in a way I hadn't before. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about bitterness. This was about seeing the life I threw away. Seeing the reality that he was happy with someone else, and realizing that no amount of explanation or apology could change that. I was no longer a character in his story. I had been a plot device in my own. By the time we parted, I felt hollow in a way I can't fully describe. I had closure, yes, but it wasn't the kind I wanted. I wasn't getting him back. I wasn't getting any redemption. I was left with the weight of my choices, the clarity of my mistakes, and the knowledge that the one person who had truly loved me had moved forward without me. Walking back to my car, I thought about all the steps that led me here. Leaving him, sleeping with the coworker, losing my footing at work, struggling with bills, isolating myself from friends, it all led to this. And in that moment, I stopped blaming anyone else. I didn't need to. The truth was painfully clear. I had done this to myself. Every misstep, every impulsive decision, every moment of chasing excitement over stability, it all belonged to me. The weirdest part is, I don't feel hate. I don't feel anger toward him, toward the new girlfriend, or even toward the world. I feel grief. Grief for the life I thought I was entitled to. Grief for the stability I rejected. Grief for the version of myself that could have been someone who deserved him. And for the first time, I understood that some losses can't be fixed by apologies, explanations, or closure. Some losses are permanent, and the only thing left to do is acknowledge them and carry them. I went home that evening and stared at my apartment, the bills, the empty fridge, the loneliness I had invited in. Everything I had freedom for felt meaningless without him, without the safety I had abandoned, without the love I had underestimated. And yet, I couldn't undo it. There was no magic fix. There was only life, only consequences, and only the uncomfortable truth that I had lost something irreplaceable. So here I am, a year later, facing the consequences of my choices. Final update. It's been a few months since I met him for that coffee. The clarity I got that day didn't fix anything, but it finally forced me to stop pretending I could undo the past. The first thing I did was move back in with a roommate. My apartment had been too expensive for me to maintain alone, and selling most of my furniture and a few of the nicer things I'd bought during my freedom phase was the only way to scrape together enough money to survive. It was humbling, really humbling. I went from having what I thought was independence and control to suddenly having to depend on someone else for a place to stay. The idea of freedom I had chased so hard had led me to a small room in a shared apartment with peeling paint and noisy neighbors. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't thrilling, and it was exactly the reality check I needed. Work stabilized slowly. I got a new job, nothing fancy, nothing like what I thought I would be doing when I left him. I'd convinced myself I'd travel and network and live my dream life, but what I hadn't realized was that I had also left behind the quiet stability that allowed me to take risks without fear. Now I was making just enough to cover rent, bills, and groceries. Every paycheck was a reminder that my old life, the one where he quietly handled the things I didn't think about, was gone. I had to face the consequences of my decisions financially as well as emotionally. Even friends shifted. Some of them disappeared entirely, tired of hearing me dissect the past, tired of the constant references to him, or maybe just tired of watching someone I thought had it all throw it away. A few tried to stay, but there was always a subtle tension, a reminder that the choices I had made weren't just mine, they affected the people around me too. I realized that support isn't unconditional and that people won't always stick around when you choose to fail yourself. That was another hard truth. Social media was brutal, not in the sense of anyone gloating or trying to hurt me, but in the quiet, unbearable way life moves on. Photos of him with his new girlfriend, smiling in sunlit parks, planning trips, celebrating small victories. None of it was directed at me. No one was trying to make me feel bad, but seeing it made my chest tighten. I had thrown that away. The life I wanted to build was now theirs. And the worst part? They were happy. He was happy. Not for revenge, not for spite, not as some lesson, just happy. And I couldn't change that. I don't hate him. I don't even really feel bitterness toward his girlfriend. I feel a strange mix of grief, regret, and self-awareness. Grief because the person I loved is no longer mine. Regret because I created a series of choices that led me here. And self-awareness because I finally see the pattern, the version of myself that chased excitement at the cost of love. The version that refused to appreciate what she had. The version that made herself replaceable. I also learned to stop expecting closure from anyone but myself. I can't fix him. I can't fix her. I can't fix the timeline that led here. All I can do is work on understanding why I made the choices I did and why I continue to carry those lessons forward. No one owes me sympathy. No one owes me a second chance. The world doesn't care that I finally see the mistakes. The only thing I can control is myself, my actions, my decisions going forward, the life I have left to build. And so I'm building it in a quiet, small way. I'm saving money where I can. I'm keeping a steady job. I'm reconnecting with a few friends who've stayed, people who understand the consequences of bad choices, but don't treat me like a project or a cautionary tale. I'm learning to live with less drama, less expectation, and less fantasy about what life should have been. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, and it's definitely not the life I pictured in my early 20s, but it's honest, and it's mine. The hardest part isn't losing him. The hardest part is recognizing that he loved me, deeply and quietly. And I let it go because I thought I was smarter, freer, or braver than I was. I didn't leave him because he was wrong or the relationship was bad. I left because I was immature and thought happiness was something I could find outside myself. And now he's healed, moved on, and will never look back the way I do. And that part, more than anything, stings. I don't want him back anymore. I don't even want the what-if scenarios to consume me, though they still creep in from time to time. I just wish I hadn't waited until he was gone to finally deserve him. I wish I had learned to value the stability, care, and consistency I had when it mattered. I wish I had realized that running away wouldn't fix me, that external change isn't a cure for internal dissatisfaction. This is my reality. No redemption, no grand gestures, no miraculous reconciliation, just consequences. A life rebuilt from the rubble of decisions I made, knowing exactly what I was giving up. And slowly, painfully, I'm learning to live with it, not with anger or shame, but with the uncomfortable clarity that this is exactly what happens when you throw away the only person who ever truly loved you for the sake of chasing yourself.